Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from Reality Art Pod, here to talk about the challenge season 39, episode 15, titled Welcome to Conquest. Last week on the challenge, we saw the glorious return of CT to our screens, who called Asif down to elimination and then whooped his ass at math. Before I dive in, I post videos every week, so give me a like and subscribe if you like the video. So let's get into it. The challengers return to the house from Asif's elimination, and Jay is pissed. He feels like Kyland is laughing at Asif's expense. They're heating up in the kitchen, and Jay calls Kyland a clown. Kyland goes to Michelle and tells her that Kyland is being personal. Michelle is not happy that Jay is doing all this stuff behind her back. Kyland lays out for us that his alliance is he, Horacio, Nerys, Raven, Zara, and Olivia has now finally joined them. He says they're going to war. Later, their clock starts counting down from 24 hours, which means they'll have a nighttime challenge the next day. Olivia is head and hands about that. I want to talk about this clock for a second. The clock's not doing it for me. I'd rather you surprise these people with something than give them 24 hours to know that a surprise is coming. They're not even anxious about what comes at the end of the clock because they know it's going to be some bullshit either way. In later strategizing, Mariah lays out their alliance, which has so many more people than the other side as of now. The next day, Michelle and Jay confront Nerys about her hand in taking the vote to a stalemate. Nerys tells us she doesn't see how it's her fault that it went to a stalemate, but her vote truly did matter and it was her fault in that way. She tells them to kiss her ass and walks away. Then Michelle and Jay start arguing about how he feels that he kept her safe, and Michelle storms off. Raven and Zara meet, and Raven tells us that her father is going through chemo right now, so that's her motivation in the game. The two of them are committed to having each other's backs. They get to the nighttime challenge, and TJ announces that they're in Conquest mode, where it's going to be an individual game. The challenge will be called Dark Tide. It's going to be played in 3 rounds, timed individually. In each round, 5 of them will be strapped to a boat that will take them out into the water, then drop them in the middle of the water. They have to get on paddle boards to collect rings, and then paddle back to shore and throw a ring on a ring toss, and then they're safe. Or done. Also, TJ says in Conquest, the last place player will be purged from the game. The first round is Emmanuel, Horacio, Raven, Nerys, and Colleen. Horacio, of course, is nailing the challenge. They even give him a cool song to be awesome to. Raven is doing the worst, really struggling from the moment the challenge starts. Horacio gets his ring first, followed by Emmanuel, Colleen, Nerys, and Raven in last, who seemingly gets her ring on the first toss. Round 2 is Zara, Corey, Michelle, Mariah, and Kyland. Michelle is stressed that she'll be purged from the game, as is Corey. The spectators point out that Mariah is going the wrong way, and Mariah announces she doesn't know how to paddle. She starts doggy paddling, which helps. As a production note, this challenge being at night made it so hard to see what was going on my TV. Kyland finishes first, followed by Michelle, Corey, Zara, and Mariah in last. The final round is Olivia, Ed, Berna, James, and Jay. Olivia starts off on a bad note with GoPro footage that makes her out to be drowning. Ed comes in first, then Jay, James, Olivia, and Berna in last. I wish I had more to say about this, but it was Game of Thrones finale dark. TJ announces that the bottom 2, separated by seconds, were Mariah and Raven, and the last place finisher and eliminated is Raven. She gets emotional, and this was really sad, especially because she was just talking about wanting to help her dad. I'm shocked to see her go here because she's been crushing it in the game, winning multiple eliminations and really having a strong showing for herself this season. She was involved in the house flip. I thought that house flip was going to put her in a really good place in the game in a majority alliance, but in the beginning of this episode, it seems like there's still that giant majority that's going to be hard to crack. Aside from being a great competitor, she had some great moments creating a potential new vendetta with Melissa. I think the drink throwing thing really helped her to get an invitation to a future season. I would like to see Raven back again, and I also think there are some unresolved storylines, especially with Johnny. TJ then tells them that Ed won the challenge. As the winner of the challenge during Conquest, you get to start a safety chain, and the last 3 people in the safety chain are going to have to go into a 3-way elimination. Instead of going to the club this episode, they go out on a yacht the next day. Michelle and Jay are trying to mend fences. At the same time, Nerys vents to Olivia about the alliances, and they bond together. Ed weighs out his decision. Nerys says Ed is playing a scared game. Zara and Nerys pitch to Ed to switch sides, and then Michelle wants there to be a very tight plan to force Nerys to save Olivia over Horacio. Corey calls this plan scummy, and I agree. It seemed mean to me. The best strategy if you want Kyland or Horacio out would have been to sacrifice one of your strong males to go against them in elimination. TJ shows up at the house for the selection process. Ed starts off the chain. I hate having to read them out in order, but the order is Emmanuel, Berna, Colleen, Corey, Michelle, Jay, Mariah, James, then Nerys, who does have to make the final decision between Zara, Olivia, Horacio, and Kyland. Horacio asks her not to save him, and Nerys saves Olivia. I'm happy that Nerys chose her friend in the end, but also I feel like Horacio would be fine. Nerys calls Jay nasty for this whole thing. Afterwards, Zara, Olivia, and Nerys unwind, with Zara also feeling betrayed by James. At the elimination, TJ tells them they'll be racing to complete 3 puzzles with obstacles in between. I'm worried about Horacio and Zara here, as puzzles may not be their strong suit, but I'm not worried about Kyland at all. They get started and Horacio is whipping through the obstacles like they're nothing. The puzzles are a Sudoku, a cipher, and a color sorting beads thing. Kyland and Horacio team up to complete their ciphers. There was one point where Zara had to climb this seemingly huge wall, and it was awesome that she got over it. The elimination was not fair and balanced. The physical aspect of this was way more part of it than any of the puzzles, which were pretty easy and just an inconvenience along the way. Zara was kind of thrown to the wolves here as Horacio comes in first. They tried to edit it like it was close, but it so wasn't. Kyland finishes shortly after Horacio, and we have to say goodbye to Zara. I think this was a shitty way for her to go because, as I said, to put this 5'6" girl in an elimination against 2 fit, tall guys that includes scaling a 7-foot wall, and she still did it, but it brings respect to her name. Overall, I didn't want her to be the winner of the season, as I'm not that attached to her. With her having been on some seasons I didn't pay that much attention to, though I watched them, and she didn't have much content on this season besides her very short rivalry with Raven that ended up being a Final 2 alliance that gets sniped out of the game here at the first opportunity. On paper, if it were only based on social strategy, Raven and Zara would be in a really good spot in the game, but given the challenge aspect added into it, they got really unlucky here. I think she's a strong competitor, and I'd like to see her come back and do some more traditional eliminations because this setup won right. Wrapping up on this episode, I hate Conquest. It all feels so geared towards the men for me. I just fear that my next month or so is going to be watching these women get bodied in eliminations and challenges that are clearly designed for the men who are tall. I'm just hoping that these challenges can be a little bit more equitable. I feel like this elimination was going for like a survivor type challenge where the puzzles would even things out. But as I said, the puzzles were so easy and the physical aspect was so hard. Let me know in the comments, do you agree? What do you think about Conquest? I'll be back next Wednesday to talk about more challenge. Until then, have a nice weekend. Bye.